All right, we are on air. Happy New Year's Eve, everyone. It is December 31st, 2015. We've had a great year so far, and we're very much looking forward to next year. Let's see if we got a couple of general announcements. If you guys are contributors and have not already gotten your Backdrop CMS t-shirt, let us know. Send an email to info@backdropcms.org and we can mail one off to you. If you would like a hoodie, or if you are not a contributor and still want a t-shirt, you can go to backdropcms.org/contribute and you can make a donation. And as a thank you gift for your generous donation, we will send you adorable dragon emblazoned clothing. Last year's is on the way. Sorry for the delay on that. We have free PHP Storm licenses for Backdrop Contrib developers. So anyone who is a member of the Backdrop Contrib group, we have new licenses from the PHP Storm folks. Send us an email at info@backdropcms.org. You can get a license key that's going to be good for a year, regardless of when we requested it. It'll be a year from when you signed up. So that's great. We got a bunch more, too. So we filled in the gaps of the people that we've handed them out to last year. So let us know if you want to try out PHP Storm. No updates this week from the PMC, but Nate, do you want to talk about community growth? Looks staggering.
Yeah, well, it's been 2 weeks since we last had a meeting, since last meeting was Christmas Eve. Of course, today is New Year's Eve, but we're still doing a meeting. The real problem was Star Wars. All right, well, anyway, confession is out there. So it's been 2 weeks since our last meeting, which means that our numbers are looking great because they're twice as many as usual. So we have 185 total projects, including modules, themes, and layouts for Backdrop, currently in the Backdrop Contrib group. That's 6 new projects since last meeting, which is really awesome. We also have 115 projects with official releases on backdropcms.org, and that's 4 new official projects since last meeting. So that's fantastic. Lots of new modules coming in and some new blood coming in. It's really fantastic. Let's see. There were also 8 new releases. So the official releases just get it. The first one just gets on backdropcms.org, and then people are regularly updating their releases as well. We've had 8 new versions of existing modules since 2 weeks ago, and we added 1 new Contrib author to our numbers. Welcome, Juggling Coder, if you watch our videos. We're really happy to have you. It's also really exciting that Juggling Coder's application was a module that he said he wrote a little while ago, and then he applied, and I was like, well, can you send the D7 link? He was like, oh, I never went through the D7 application process, but I have this great module. And I was like, oh, excellent. So we get a brand new contributor with a brand new module that has never before seen the light of the open source communities. So really excited to have new contributors in our project. So if you want to join us, you can apply to the Backdrop Contrib group. It's relatively straightforward at github.com/backdrop-ops/contrib. And that's where we go through the application process. We basically ask that you put up your module or theme or layout into your own not private, but your own GitHub account. And then we review it, and if it looks good, then we grant you access, and then it's transferred over to the Contrib group. And then from then on out, you can make new modules willy-nilly. So let's see. Looks like next item on the agenda is blog schedule, which is new this week. So let's have you talk about that, Jen.
Sorry, I'm back. I got cold. I had to put on a coat. Anyway, new blog schedule. So one of the things we talked about last meeting was that Backdrop needed to get better about its marketing. I'm not sure if this needs to go here in the agenda. I'm just trying to move it up higher, but I didn't mean to go between community growth and infrastructure. We can rearrange it for next week. Sorry about that. Anyway, so for the blog schedule, I wanted to set up, we talk about needing to blog, but we didn't actually put any gears in motion for actually creating the blogs. So I wanted to just kind of put a list of potential dates and topics on here that I thought would be relevant. That way we can try and figure out what we're saying when, and make sure that we get everything out kind of at the right time for things that we're doing. So especially because coming up in January, we've got a lot of stuff going on. We wanted tomorrow to let people start logging into the Backdrop website, so we needed to have a post that talked a little bit about that. We have Backdrop 1.3.0 coming out on the 15th, so we need to write a post about that. We have Backdrop and Civi CRM integration, and there's a new version of Civi CRM that comes out, we think, on the 28th, so we need to talk about that. So I wanted to make sure that we got all of these things kind of organized in a bit of a schedule so we could figure out when we needed to say what we need to say. So I know, Nate, you wanted to write about PHP 7 support, but on the schedule I have one coming out every 2 weeks. The earliest I could get it in was February 18th. So maybe we should do one every 1 week if we have something important to say. So I don't know how you feel about that. We could definitely move that up earlier if you wanted to.
Yeah, I think having a schedule is a great idea just to make sure we have a steady flow of content. But if things happen, that require more immediate posting, I think maybe we should just go ahead and post it. Yeah.
Okay. I think that sounds fair. Do you want to just write a blog post about the PHP 7 support when it goes in, or do you want to wait until there's a release that comes out with that in it?
Yeah. So it's probably kind of part of the how Backdrop itself is going. 1.2.3 is pretty much, we can release it at any time, and I really think that we should have released it in the last week or two. But maybe releasing during the holiday weeks isn't the greatest idea anyway. But the real hang-up there is that I'd been wanting to benchmark different versions of PHP and Backdrop to demonstrate the differences and be like, hey, this is something worth celebrating. But turns out setting up like an actual benchmarking environment is kind of difficult. So I've been delaying the release on getting benchmarks and the blog post on getting benchmarks. Maybe I just shouldn't bother with that, or I should find time to finish it up. But yeah.
Okay, well, you're currently on the schedule for February 18th. If you should get benchmarks done before that, feel free to write that blog whenever you want.
Okay, well, maybe I think we should just get out that release as soon as possible.
Okay. I also have a bulleted list here of other ideas for things that we might want to blog about, and just to put this out there, anyone who has anything that's exciting, that's Backdrop related, who wants to blog about Backdrop is definitely welcome to write a post on our website. I know we've got a bunch of people in the Backdrop CMS.org issue queue who've expressed interest in writing blog posts. I know Doc Wilmot wants to do one. I know our Monkey contributor wants to do one. Anyone who has anything to contribute at all, you want to write up a little blurb about, using Backdrop in the wild, or a little technical tip or whatever, totally open to it. So you have an idea, we can tell us what it is, we'll put it on the schedule. We can even help trying to get someone to review your blog before it goes up. We can get it out. So I would say the more voices, the better on this thing. So if anyone has anything to share, let us know. Particularly proud of your response to vertical tabs. We can put a little post about that, whatever it's going to be. I think that would be great. So far, ideas I spent the last few weeks porting modules that had CTools plugins in them, and I thought it would be fun to do a little series on how to port a module that depended on CTools in Drupal to Backdrop, because we don't have CTools anymore. And I went through 2 different examples of different types of plugins and was like, oh yeah, this definitely is tricky, and we should maybe write it up. So I thought that would be kind of fun. I also think it would be great if we could get a little post on upgrading from Drupal 7. I think that would be also a great place where we can highlight this book that just came out, Backdrop's first book about upgrading from Drupal 7. So that could be kind of a 2 birds with 1 stone deal, where we could do a little story on that. Somebody mentioned that we could publish each YouTube meeting video to our website as well as doing it through Twitter. I think that might be good. I'd like to avoid too much noise in the blog, though, so I don't know if we could, I was thinking about dividing it into different categories and tagging things differently, and that way if people are subscribing, they can choose whether they want to see all of the weekly videos or not. But I think getting it up there just so that people know that we're doing things might be good. And then there's also an idea to put photos or videos from the latest conference. I think that would be good, especially we have one coming up at the end of February, Sand Camp. We're going to have a first day-long training on Backdrop. That might be a good place to practice, like getting some sound clips or video clips from people being like, why are you interested in this? Why is it relevant? What did you learn today? Just kind of going to an event with that, like, different perspective of rather than just being there and enjoying it, but thinking like, what can we share from this with the rest of the world? Might be a good place to try that. We'll see if it works or not. I know it's sometimes really hard at an event to try and be playing marketing person in addition to just being there, but we'll see how that goes. And then also, I love the idea of interviewing contributors and trying to get their take on whatever it is they're working on at any given time, and doing a little more kind of community spotlight sort of thing. Worked really well for Drupal. I'd love to see us do that for Backdrop too. So I've got kind of a rough schedule up, obviously, until early March that we just ran through. But if anyone wants to write anything, let us know. You can send an email, info@backdropcms.org. You can comment in the issue queue. We have an issue for blogging on our own site. It's issue 110 on the backdropcms.org queue. Anyone who's watching this video comes up with anything, you can send a tweet. We'll just definitely try and get you in the fold. So we're going to try and commit to making updates, but that means we have to come up with content for all the updates. Although it seems like we have a lot right now, I have a feeling that's not going to be the case long term. So definitely put your thinking hats on and see. So other marketing tasks in the queue, we have obviously creating our own blog and writing our own blog posts. But I also think it would be great if we could blog on other existing websites. So how do we reach outside of our normal group, right? We know we've got a bunch of followers on Twitter, we've got a bunch of people on our mailing list, but how can we expand our community? And I think it would be great if we could start blogging other places as well. We talked to the folks at CiviCRM about doing blogging on each other's sites when we get our CiviCRM integration completed. I think that would be great. I would love other ideas and people who might be interested in doing some outreach to figure out what kinds of places might be interested in hearing from us would be good too. So if anyone has any ideas about that, let us know. And then we have a whole tag in our GitHub queue for marketing-related items. It's now audience marketing. But I just, and we've got a bunch of tasks set up there already, but I just want to say a couple of thank yous to people who volunteered stuff already. We've got volunteers to do our Twitter, Facebook stuff, social media in general. We've got volunteers working on our search engine optimization, and we've got volunteers working on our Google Analytics code, setting up events traffic and events tracking, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So just in the last 2 weeks where we're like, we need to care about marketing, how are we going to do this? We've had all of these people who are like, I can help, and that's fantastic. So thank you everybody who's jumped on that right away. There are a couple of other tests we still need volunteers for in there, so if you do have marketing chops or particularly good at it or interested in it or just want to help and that seems like a good way to do it, go ahead and search that audience marketing tag on GitHub. All right, thanks, Nate. Sorry to interrupt between community growth and infrastructure, but you can go ahead and take it back over if you want.
No worries. So infrastructure. First item here is update checking. Update checking has been in place for a long time. Backdropcms.org tells you when your modules are out of date. We filed a pull request this past week that makes it so that the usage statistics can be calculated correctly. So we've been accruing the data of what sites are running what modules for a long time now, but our script to process that into weekly and total usage numbers hasn't been working, but it could be working if we merge in the pull request and deploy it to production. But there's still some other ongoing issues there. I don't like the Travis CI right now is checking in as though it were an installation every time we run a test. So that can really skew our numbers. So I'm not sure that I want to deploy this thing yet, because then we'd have to go backwards and readjust it for removing Travis CI numbers, which is impossible to accurately do that. So we might try to remove Travis CI from the raw numbers, keep it from adding into the new raw numbers, and then deploy the fix, and then our usage numbers will actually be correct. It's also kind of interesting, this problem almost certainly affects Drupal as well. That simple test, when it runs, is checking in with Drupal.org saying that it is an installation. And because of the volume of Drupal's development and the number of modules that are on GitHub that use Travis, even Drupal modules use Travis, because there's a bunch of Drupal modules on GitHub, that could be, I mean, our numbers are inflated substantially, but the scale of it on Drupal side could be a lot worse. So I'd like to get that fixed, and whatever fix that I come up with, we'll see if that gets pushed to Drupal as well. Let's see. After we get those usage charts up, or usage statistics up, we do want to add some charts at some point, whether that's using high charts or using something like D3. We'll see. Which charts we use, doesn't really matter. And long term, we'd also like to keep track of specific features within modules rather than just what modules are enabled. Jen mentioned during the design call, like, it would be useful to keep track of how many layouts people have set up and which layout templates they're using. So that way we could evaluate, like, do we need to add more layout templates, or are some of our layout templates not getting used at all, and so forth. Let's see, the next item on here, Drush for Backdrop. Drush for Backdrop has been it's been moving along a little bit, but there hasn't been any progress in the past couple of weeks. There's a prototype that is in my private repository, or my GitHub account, github.com/quicksketch/backdrop-drush, and that's a Drush extension. So once you've downloaded Drush, you can throw that extension in your home directory's .drush directory or in Drush itself, and then Drush will be able to recognize and start working with Backdrop. We do need to write the commands basically over again, the ones that we want to support Backdrop. So right now there's only the basics of, like, drush updb, drush ccall, those sorts of commands that can be used. But we can expand that out to support many more commands in the future. So if you're interested in doing that, check it out in that GitHub repository. And if you find any problems, or you'd like to expand it by adding new commands, then file a pull request just against that issue, or against that repository, or make an issue against that repository, and we can work together to expand that out. Let's see. GitHub automation. This item was from 2 weeks ago. We can probably take it off the list. Travis CI had been broken for a couple of days there because they switched everybody to a new infrastructure. But the new infrastructure unbelievably doesn't actually include PHP installations, like full PHP installations. So we had to go back to using the legacy infrastructure. But while we were doing that, we also removed, we disabled Xdebug from our tests, and that has sped up our tests by another like 50-some%. So now it's really exciting. We moved back to the legacy infrastructure for the time being. Long term, we'll want to move to the new infrastructure, but our test run times have gotten even shorter yet. I've seen some test runs as quick as 5 to 6 minutes, which is really exciting. The accuracy is still really hit or miss, though. We still have random failures popping up here and there that are kind of obnoxious, but But at least the tests are running fast, and we can have them run again in the event of random failures. Let's see. Why don't I pass it to you, Jen? You can talk about backdropcms.org.
All right. So let's see. At our last meeting, I announced that we had a profile page design up. Wes has volunteered to help make the edit form so that when you edit your profile page, slightly less disturbing than it is currently with our front-end theme. And then we are still on track to open that up tomorrow. If for any reason we don't end up getting that theme ready in time, we'll just switch to letting all logged-in users see the admin theme, because that's pretty. But hopefully we'll get our theme made pretty too, and then we won't have to worry about it. And then let's see, other things that we are going to be working on shortly. We have a new top level item, or next highest priority item is adding a blog. So at our last meeting, we talked about how we needed to have a focus on marketing, and that we should commit to actually updating our community as to what it is we are doing, because there is a lot of activity happening in Backdrop. We just don't do a very good job of telling anyone about it. So obviously we talked about today, we've got a blog schedule. We need to actually build the thing to post the stuff. So today after the meeting, I'm going to go ahead and set that up, and we'll see what it looks like with our current theme, and if we need to do any tweaking on that. I have a feeling it'll be pretty close. Our theme is pretty clean when it comes to just posting text, but we'll just take a look at and make sure it still looks good with images and videos and all of that good stuff too. We'll set up a view. We'll put some tags on it so we can tag things with announcements or new releases or any of that. I don't know, we'll adjust as needed based on content. So blog, coming soon. And then coming later, we'd also like to do single sign-on with GitHub. So anyone who has a GitHub account doesn't need to create an account on backdropcms.org. And anyone who has created an account will be able to sync their account with their GitHub. And that way we'll be able to know who is a maintainer for a module, maybe, and let them edit their module pages, although that'll also come down the road as well. And then people who are logged into the website might also want something to do there. So we're going to let people add websites they're working on into our showcase, list themselves as service providers or contractors, post events that are either Backdrop or Backdrop-related events into our calendar, and then list jobs or post needed workers, whatever the opposite of that is. Yeah, the opposite of jobs. Needing a job or wanting a job or having a job to give someone. And then we also have some follow-ups on things that we've posted already, like follow-ups for the module themes and layouts pages, which need a little bit of development work. If anyone is interested in working on backdropcms.org, we would love to get some help over there too. I know we've got a bunch of people who've been volunteering lately to do marketing-y stuff, which is fantastic, but I'm realizing there's an awful lot of development tasks over there also. So if you don't really know how to contribute to Backdrop, but you can build websites, we could use your help building Backdrop's website. That's a great place for people to get started. So our issue queue, backdropcms.org, has its own queue with a bunch of stuff over there that needs to get done as well. All right, Backdrop, the project itself. We have a 1.2.3 release, which is pretty much ready, as Nate said earlier. I don't know if we need, I don't know what you want to do with that release, Nate, if you want to hold up the release until you have benchmarks, or if you just want to hold up the blog post until you have benchmarks.
Yeah, I think it needs to get out.
Okay.
So I would say I do think that releasing it today or even anytime this week is a bad idea, because it's the week between Christmas and New Year's. So we can shoot for next Wednesday, or this coming Wednesday, and then we'll do one more final release, 1.2.4, as we have done with all past releases on January 15th, when the new release comes out, when 1.3 comes out. Because we only have 2 weeks left, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we have, let's see, 1.3.0, our next major release, is a user experience facing release. I noticed a bunch of little tiny changes have gotten in the last few days, which is pretty exciting. But we have a really long list in the 1.3 milestone of stuff that we wanted to get done. We were going to take a look at that today and prune out the stuff we think is unrealistic so that people who are working on it can have kind of a focused shot at what we should be doing for the next 2 weeks. Some of the things we're working on include follow-ups to layouts issues, follow-ups to the rich text editor we put in, cleaning up the last few administration views, which are related to comments. I'm not sure comments views were working. I found a pretty serious bug yesterday, which I tried to fix and then broke everything else. We'll try and get to the bottom of that. Getting a notification icon into the admin bar. Getting a project browser into Core, I think that's pretty close. And cleaning up Field UI. There's a couple of low-lying fruit things we can probably get done for Field UI, but overhaul one, I don't know. Nate and Wes are working on it. We'll see if we can cram that in for the finish line. But all the issues are on the GitHub issue queue tagged with the 1.3.0 milestone. 1.4, we are starting to get a clear idea of what we're going to do in the 1.4 release. It looks like we're going to want to put in a new set of core layouts, a new front-end theme, references module, or some version of node reference or entity reference or user reference or whatever. Some way to put reference one thing from another thing. And maybe something that will fix our redirect system. So I'm not sure if that's redirect module or global redirect, but some improvement to our redirect situation since we have Path Auto. Getting some kind of redirect solution in there would also be great. I think new front-end theme, new front-end layouts, if we could get those in together in 1.4 would be fantastic. And that's going to be a lot of work. I'm wondering if we should stop there on new features added to 1.4 and start thinking about working on those. But as people are building websites with Backdrop, we will, of course, be recognizing new needs and things that are higher priority, and we can always adjust the list as we go. But I think 1.4 is looking like a pretty good release with references, redirects, a new front-end theme, and new front-end layouts. So maybe that should be our focus. Anyone have any opinions one way or the other?
Sounds good. That's
all right.
I'll
go ahead and update the roadmap page so we can get that on there. And then if we need to change those around, we can as necessary. All right, other things we're working on all the time, user experience issues. We're obviously got a whole release devoted to them, but little things will constantly come up and can always be improved. We're looking for issues with UX in square brackets and developer experience issues. So as you guys are writing code, that's modules, themes, and layouts, if you find anything weird going on, let's write it down, write an issue, let's figure out what's weird and how to fix it. Some of these things are just updating documentation. Some of them are functions that could use wrapper functions. Just things that might not make sense as people who write code. We can kind of clean those up, make it more fun and less frustrating for people to write code for Backdrop. I think that'll be a big win for all of us. All right, let's see. Sprints. So we don't have any official in real life sprints scheduled at the moment, but we might be able to get one going at Sandcamp. We'll see. We don't have that on any official schedule yet, but it could just kind of work out that way. But every Thursday after this meeting, we always hang out in the IRC channel Pound Backdrop. We hang out in Gitter. If you guys are not IRC users, Gitter is also a good place. We are working fervently in the GitHub issue queue. We are starting discussions on Reddit. And we're just trying to work together to solve lots of various different issues in Backdrop. Some of them are core issues, some of them are issues with our website, some of them are issues just related to your day-to-day work. But there's usually a lot of people on Thursdays working on Backdrop, so if you want to work with a huge crowd of Backdrop loving folks, Thursday's a good day to do it. That said, I have noticed the last few weeks people seem to have less work on their plates, and that means more Backdrop is getting done. So hooray for the holidays. Totally working out for us. Me personally, as well as the project as a whole, I've noticed is spending a lot more time getting stuff done. So I think that's fantastic. Also perfect timing with our release, though we didn't plan it that way. It does seem to be working out pretty well. Upcoming events, we obviously have this meeting every week. We have a design meeting every other week. Those two calendars can be found on Google. We have an iCal feed. We'll try and get that set up on our website shortly, so it's not only in Google. But if you have an event you'd like added a Backdrop related conference, we also have a calendar for those in Google. Send an email to info@backdropcms.org and we can put your event on that calendar as well. Fairly soon you can add it yourself. Upcoming, we have Sand Camp, which is in February, Drupal Camp Utah, which is in the beginning of March, and Drupal Camp Chicago, which is in the end of March. So if anyone is in any of those areas and wants to talk to other people about Backdrop, those are safe places you can go to talk about Backdrop, which is great. And if anyone also knows of any events that aren't Drupal related, we had a lot of success last month attending non-Drupal conferences and talking to people about Backdrop. At Drupal camps, it seems like the group tends to be split, right? There's like half the people who love Drupal and want Drupal 8, and then half the people are like, oh, okay, you can talk to me about Backdrop. But when you go to a not Drupal event, everybody is curious about Backdrop. It was such a completely different experience to have, I don't know, like the majority of people interested in what you're talking about rather than the minority of people. So if anyone has any ideas of events that might not be on our radar, definitely let us know about those too. That would be great to kind of expand into the other type of events in the world. If anyone is attending an event and would like to give a talk about Backdrop, we have an open source set of slides, which is available at github.com/backdrop-ops/slides. If anyone's giving a talk and wants to give their talk back, we could love to see some pull requests there. So we've got resources for you to take and would love if you could give some resources back. And under publicity, the first Backdrop CMS book is available. You can buy it directly from Apress. If you go onto Amazon's website, it looks like it's not available until next year. So I don't know if Amazon made a mistake with their listing or if there's some weird thing that they make it so you can't buy the book until a year after it's out. I don't know. Seems a little strange. But can't buy it on Amazon yet, but you can buy it on Apress. So if you want the book on how to upgrade from 777 to Backdrop, it's written by Todd Tomlinson, who wrote the definitive Drupal 7 Pro Development book, or maybe Drupal 6 and 5 as well, I'm not sure. Great source, great book, good publisher. Definitely check that out. Great stocking stuffer. Yeah. All right, let's see. Got a couple of questions in the chat. Nate, do you have an example of how to write a drush command from your repository or otherwise?
Yeah, I'll pull it up, but give me a second. Anything else while I'm looking for this?
Does anyone have anything else they want to add or chat or talk about or debate, celebrate? Anyone want to write blog posts? Celebrate electricity. Okay, well, if there's nothing urgent, what's that?
So regarding Drush, the only thing I can say is that there's a single file, backdrop.drush.inc, in that repository, and it defines commands the exact same way that the exact same way that you define commands in Drupal for Drush. So there's hook drush command, and then you specify the command, and then there's a callback function that is the name of the command with all the hyphens converted to underscores. And that's all you really need to do. I mean, you define a command and then a callback, and then it will be exposed to Drush. The tricky part that we have in here that's a little bit of a hack is we have backdrop drush command alter. And what this does is, if you are within a backdrop site, then it hijacks the commands that previously would be like Drupal commands, like core-cron, and swaps it out for a backdrop command, which is backdrop-cron. And that's just because the way commands are written, that they just have a single callback right now in Drushland. And because we can't inject backdrop code into those callbacks, we need to make entirely different callbacks that do the backdrop version of things. So what we do is when people are within a backdrop site, if they type in a familiar drush command like drush cc, then what we do is we swap out that cc. Instead of calling the one that's in Drush, we call the callback that is in our Drush integration instead. So it's a little bit on the weird side because that's the best we can do for the time being until we get some possibly other abstraction into Drush. But it's questionable whether or not that will happen.
No one has anything else important. I have a question that is not so important. In setting up the blog, should we put a link to the announcements page up now, or should we wait until we have more announcements, like an announcement, a new announcement?
What's the announcements page?
The blog.
We could announce the blog.
Right, exactly. I didn't know there was a page. Is there a URL?
Well, I'm about to make one. There is not one right now, but there will be. The question is, should I put a link in the menu to that page if it's empty?
No, I think we should hold off on that and get a post or two up in there. Although, of course, we have the announcement of the 1.2 release is a blog post, so that would go in there. But
yeah, I think we might have two of those, but that's it.
Yeah, let's make the page, and
I'll make the page, and then I'll link it to anyone in IRC and Gitter, and you guys can take a look at it. And then after we write a blog post, we can put a link in the menu. How's that sound?
There you go. Much better. Okay. Well, I think that's going to be it. Happy New Year, everybody. Yay! It's been a great year of Backdrop. Our 1-year anniversary is coming up. For Backdrop. Of course, that's not really a surprise because we have a 4-month release cycle that every 3 releases we have an anniversary. So January 15th is going to be the 1 year of Backdrop in official release status, and we've had a really amazing year. Think about how crazy it is. I mean, we made a release, we made like we redid the entire website. We had 2 minor releases. We grew our community. We got all kinds of excitement. We implemented tons of features. We integrated tons of modules into core. And we got a new admin theme. We implemented the new admin theme. It's been a hell of a year.
Look at all the contrib modules. It just appeared. Like everybody's using it. It's fantastic. Thank you, Andy.
All right. Well, I think let's call it a meeting.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for joining. See you next year.
All right. Happy New Year. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys. Thanks.